Hello, Jenny Hall here for Honeybee Stamps. Today I have a fun card idea to share with you. I'm going to be using the Hello Summer stamps and dies paired with No Problema stamp set. And to create my background, I'm using the Beach Scene A7 die set. An A7 card is about 5 by 7 inches, and the US standard card, or standard envelopes, is an A2, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But what we're going to do in order to get this onto a A2 card is to just use a simple die to cut it down, and I'll show you exactly how we can do that. Now I'm going to use some die cuts from one single piece of Neenah 110 pound. I used the heavy cardstock because I wanted these die cuts to really be more stable. There's another way that you can achieve the background look. If you have different scraps of colored cardstock or even pattern paper, if you have them, you can strategically place them onto that die and cut out certain pieces to make different colors, and then you won't have to add so much ink blending. But with this method that I used, that you see here, I used one piece of paper and I'm just using some ink to ink up each one of them. And so I felt like I was saving some paper because my paper scraps didn't quite get this big. So I'm going to save them for another day. What I like to do to make a paper piecing project more stable is to give it a nice solid foundation. And you can use any type of paper. This is printer paper, and so I'm using the Honeybee new precision tip glue pen, and it has a very nice thin line of glue that comes out. And I'm going to glue all of these pieces back in place like a puzzle and make sure that they're not going to move anywhere by having that one solid foundation of the printer paper. This is a nice trick that you can use for any kind of paper piecing or die cutting different project, but this is something that I almost always do if it's paper piecing. Paper piercing is something totally different. Okay, so we are going to stamp out the fantastic little images from the Hello Summer stamp set. I have stamped the beach chair, but I'm not going to end up using it in the final project because the size didn't really fit with the size of the llama taking up so much of the card front. If I had kept it at an A7 size, then it would be no problem at all. But since I know I'm cutting down my die, the background, I'm going to cut it down a little bit. So we're leaving off the beach chair. And you saw the new Honeybee Be Creative microfiber towel there, and that's available in the Honeybee store. Now I'm going to take all of these images that are stamped on 80 pound Neenah Solar White with the Ink on 3 Blackout alcohol marker friendly ink, and I'm going to use alcohol markers. The llama is basically white. I don't want her to have a tremendous amount of color because I want her to stand out away from that background. The background has some really intense colors, which are really pretty. And so I want her to just have enough shading around all of her contours to be able to see that she's a light colored or mostly white colored llama. And I spied this cute little sunglasses image in the llama stamp set. So I thought, okay. We're definitely going to make her look like she's at the seashore. Now I remembered that I needed to stamp 4 flip-flops because I know that it's not realistic that the llama would actually put the flip-flops on, but it's just the idea of her being at the beach or the seashore, and she's got her flip-flops off and she's got her toes in the sand, and she's been digging for seashells. And my kids love that Llama Red Pajama book with all the different Goodnight Llama, and there's like a whole string of books. And so this llama just kind of fits in perfectly. And I thought that the idea of a beach scene would look really sweet with her. I'm using some very simple Copic coloring for all of these images. Most of the time it's just a 2-color blend, and if I need a little bit darker or lighter, then I just bring in another marker, or I use that 0 marker quite a bit to create a highlight or just to soften that harsh line. I am using 3 colors here for the grass. I'm going to end up coloring the beach chair because I haven't quite decided at this point what I'm going to do with it. So I decided to color it, and I left that in the video because you're going to be using this stamp set one day maybe, and might like to see exactly how I chose to color the beach chair. So I used some of the colors that I already had on some of the other images, which is a nice way to tie in a lot of the color scheme, and created just some very simple blends with the 2 colors, the darker and the lighter of each one of the shades of pink and blue. It's a really easy way to just leave that one area like a highlight line in the middle, and it kind of brings the eye there and makes it look a little more natural. Now I'm going to use all of the coordinating dies to cut each one of these images out, and then I grabbed a rectangle die from my craft stash that I knew would be 4 1/4 and 5 1/2, the perfect size for my note card, and I'm going to just glue that down. And because it has that perfect little paper foundation, then I don't have to worry about anything falling off or falling apart. So easy. Now here's our little llama friend, and I've got lots of double-sided foam tape behind her, and I'm very conscious of making sure that her feet are going to stay on the brown area, because otherwise she would be in the water, which is not a bad thing, but for perspective wise, I wanted to make sure that I established a forefront for her. All of the images are going to either be glued or use a little bit of foam tape. And when looking at this bucket, I thought it would be really cool to put one of the seashells partially in the bucket and partially out. And so I just cut a little slit in the paper and helped to slide in that shell. And there you go. It's like a little extra 3-dimensional object, and it just works out. It was cute how it just kind of slides right in. You could do that with any one of the seashells. Now I decided that I definitely want our llama friend to have a little bit of beach bling, and what would she have other than a beautiful seashell necklace? So I've taken some of the seashells and I have placed them around her neck, and then we'll complete the necklace with some rhinestones. Most of the flip-flops are adhered directly down to the card base with liquid glue, but one of them I popped up here, and I thought about maybe sliding her foot in a portion of it, but then again I thought that's going to kind of mess up with my idea that she doesn't have her feet in the shoes, she just kind of kicked them off. So I decided instead to play with the sunglasses, and I don't want them to cover her eyes because she's so pretty, and so they're kind of like cocked up on one side, a little crooked on the top of her head, and adhered with some liquid glue. Now here's how I wanted to do the sentiment. This is an absolutely gorgeous sentiment in the Hello Summer stamp set, and I didn't intend on making it blue ink on white paper, but I have lost all of my vellum, which I wanted to do gold on vellum, and it was going to be fussy cut and so pretty, but I couldn't put my hands on it. I think that my youngest son has maybe acquired some vellum and he's not going to give it back. So I just made do with what I had and used the blue with white on white cardstock. And it's not so bad. The blue kind of ties into all the other blue elements, and it works out that way. I'd love to know what your opinion is. So I'm using some of the Beach Vibes gem stickers that are also available from Honeybee and placing them around. And then there's these really pretty little, they look like pearls, and so I thought that would be the perfect way to complete her necklace. And check her out. She's so sweet and she's so pretty. She's like a classy lady, and she's just having a good old time at the beach. Thank you so much for joining us with Honeybee Stamps, and we'll see you next time.